Thank you. In the Cabinet Secretary's opening remarks, she and her colleagues laid the blame for harvests rotting on the vine on Brexit and its impacts. Presiding Officer, it's frankly embarrassing that 7 years since that vote, the Scottish Government continues to wring its hands instead of rolling up its sleeves and getting to work. Scottish Government ministers know that a country's economy cannot be based on importing labour from overseas. Of course, we must always welcome new neighbours, but that must be in addition to, and not instead of, developing our own labour strategy. Because without an industrial strategy for a sustainable food supply chain that recruits, that trains and that values workers through unionised jobs and excellent paying conditions, we will all go hungry. I'll take an intervention from Jim Fairley.
Jim Fairley.
I'd like to thank Mercedes Wahab for taking an intervention. Does that mean that the member agrees with Suella Braverman?
Mercedes Wahab.
I think it's quite telling that the intervention from the SNP backbencher focuses on Westminster politics. I think it demonstrates that the SNP know that at the next election there is a choice between only two parties, and they can continue to support the rotten Tory government, or they can get behind Labour and give Scotland the government that it needs. Presiding Officer, we also heard from Rachel Hamilton that our food security issues are entirely the fault of events elsewhere. Never mind their Tory government's decimation of the economy, never mind their Tory government's absolute unwillingness to tackle the gross inequalities at the heart of our economic system, and never mind their Tory government's overseeing of the rising food bank use, which shames us all. Food producers, agriculture workers, and every single one of our friends and our neighbours who are donating and accessing food banks on a weekly basis, they all have one thing in common, and that is failed Tory economics. Failed Tory economics that allows supermarket profits to soar unchecked. Failed Tory economics that allows those profits to rise while children go hungry, and failed Tory economics that allows our food producers to be undercut by their disastrous post-Brexit trade agreements. And then they have the audacity to stand up in this Parliament and they claim to advocate for rural mental health, for rural repopulation, for rural livelihoods. Whether it's denial or delusion, it's utterly shameful. Take an intervention from Mr Mundell.
Whilst I enjoyed the start of her speech more than this section, I wondered if she would agree with me that there is absolutely no reason why we're not building enough houses in rural Scotland, and that has absolutely nothing to do with Brexit.
Yes. Mercedes Wahab.
It's got everything to do with the economy, Mr Mundell, and your party is totally failing on that. Presiding Officer, it doesn't have to be this way. Many of our producers are leading the way with high nature value farming, with conservation grazing, and with a wide range of measures that will have a positive impact on the local and global environment and economy. But the current systems do not reward these steps enough. So we need to see radical actions to address the injustice and harm that our current system is doing. Because until no child in Scotland is hungry and until no food banks are needed, we cannot call ourselves a good food nation. I'll take an intervention from the member.
Colette Stevenson.
I thank the member for taking that intervention. At the recent Social Justice Committee, we took evidence from Cara Hilton from the Trussell Trust, and I just wonder if the member would welcome this and encourage this, that because of the Scottish Child Payment, it's a great example of a policy that's actually working, and it's making a difference because there is a reduction now in the amount of food parcels that are going out to these children, and that's clear in their stats. I wonder if the member would welcome that information.
Mercedes Wahab.
Of course, we welcome the Scottish Government coming behind Labour on our call for that increase. Presiding Officer, as I said before the intervention, we cannot call ourselves a good food nation until no child in Scotland is hungry and until no food bank is needed. And that is why Labour is calling for the right to food to be enshrined in law and empowered through the Food Commission. And it's why the next Labour government will end the use of zero-hour contracts that so blight our food supply chains and our economy, because Labour would see every child fed, every worker heard, and every flower bloom.